Good morning, everybody. 9:15 a.m. Eastern. And I see that we've got a lot of people from all over, so it's earlier for some and later for some. Unspoken Butterfly, good morning, beautiful. Carolette, good morning. Charlotte, good morning. Yeah, I've been up since 5:30 this morning going over all this and trying to get it arranged and set up. Good morning, Git. As you guys know, I didn't go live yesterday. I did post a lot of upcoming information in my community posts, so hopefully you guys have been following there. There she is. Good morning, Rose, our forensics expert. Shelly, good morning. Okay, so what I want to do before we jump into the stuff that I've got that I want to show you guys, I want to go over a couple things first. I want to start right back at the very first ransom note. I want you to keep these dates in mind because to me, there's something not right about this with this ransom crap. Okay. And I got to be careful of my wording because people take offense when I say garbage or crap or whatever. I'm referring to stuff that's come out, not to actually what is going on. So anyway, so the very first ransom note, you guys, okay, I want you guys to keep this in mind, was February 2nd. And that was the big one, right? And I want your guys' input on this too, because I want to know if I'm totally off here, if what you guys think about it. I got a lot of smart people that come in here, and I really appreciate your commentary. So Cold News, KOLD News, 13 in Tucson, okay? Them and a couple other people got a copy of this very first note. So the very first note was February 2nd, and Cold received an anonymous, through their anonymous tip system, right? It demanded $4 million in Bitcoin, which is about $6 million, right? By February 5th, okay? Let's keep these dates in mind. I really want you guys to listen to this. So they said by February 5th, and I made commentary on this before, and they said if you don't pay it by February 5th, well, how about Monday? But it's going up to 6 million, right? By February 9th, which was the Monday. So 4 million by February 5th, which was the Friday, or by the 9th, it's going up to 6 million, or else was also in that ransom note. And if you don't pay it February 9th, it's or else. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, this is the big one. This is the one that they were taking really seriously, right? And if not paid, it was this big or else. The note was considered highly credible as it contained non-public details about a damaged floodlight and the location of an Apple Watch that was left in the house. Hey, Ing, good to see you. Okay, so also February 3rd, TMZ got that same note, right? Approximately 12 hours after KOLD got it. It mirrored the first note's demands for millions in Bitcoin and the dual deadlines and the or else, right? So it's like, pay 4 million by Friday. If not, we'll say Monday, 6 million, and there's an or else with that if you don't pay it, right? There was another news outlet that had got it also, and I forget which one it was, but I know there was another one too. Okay, then February 4th, Annie and her husband apparently got texts. Now, what was said was from news outlets and everything was apparently this person looked up their phone number on these forums, like finding people online, right? And that's where they got their phone number and address. But what I found interesting is why Annie and Tomato, right? And that was on February 4th. They received a text message from a grief profiter demanding Bitcoin. They wanted 1 Bitcoin, right? And that one was absolutely a hoax. That person was arrested. It's a 42-year-old guy out of California named Derek Kalala or something like that. So that's a hoax, right? KGUN 9 in Tucson also reported receiving that first note, similar to the initial demands for the millions in Bitcoin with the February 5th or February 5th and February 9th deadline. Okay. But in between this, after they didn't pay it on February 5th, that first person that through the anonymous tip sent a second message on February 6th, and it was sent from a different IP address, but using the similar cloaking software that was used in this one demanding the millions in Bitcoin. And this message contained no new details or specific ransom demands, but they sent this and included information meant to prove that the sender was the same as the very first note, right? Now, I believe none of that was paid. There she is, the unspoken butterfly. Okay, so what happened after that? February 5th, it doesn't look like it was paid. February 9th, it doesn't look like it was paid, right? So we don't hear nothing because remember that very first person that started sending these demands said, now by February 1st, 4 million, or February 9th, it's going to go up to 6 million and you better pay or else. Then we hear nothing from that person. So, which led us to believe either 1, the family paid it, or 2, or else happened, right? So now in between then and now, who was getting all these ransom demands and letters and everything? TMZ, right? Good morning, True Crime and Chaos, and Diane. So they got the initial first note on February 3rd too, about the millions in Bitcoin, right? And then the week of February 11th to 16th, TMZ received a series of emails from an individual claiming to have seen Nancy south of the border. And this sender demanded 1 Bitcoin. And they wanted that upfront in exchange for information for the kidnapper's identity. That didn't work. So they kept sending all these notes to TMZ. I think they got 4 in total, right? And it was always, well, once the reward went up to 100,000, then they wanted 100,000 in Bitcoin. They wanted 50,000 up front, and then the other 50,000 once they had confirmed the information, right? Craziness. Now, this is why I am kind of confused, because this latest note, okay, seems to be from the very first people who sent this ransom for the millions in Bitcoin. And where it gets me is, look at these people sent this message. You send it by February 5th, 4 million. And if you don't, by the Monday, it goes to 6 million. And if you don't pay it, it's or else, is something's going to happen to her, right? That's the or else. And then nothing from the 9th till the 18th. So if they didn't pay the ransom, then it's the or else, right? So obviously we're all smart people here. That means they did something to her. And forget it. Now you're never going to get her. You're never going to find her. Whatever you want to read into that. Okay. So now they're saying that this new latest note come in, and it's sophisticated like the first notes, right? And a new demand for the 6 million, but through a different cryptocurrency, not Bitcoin. Okay. And apparently in this note, it graphically describes the consequences if it's not paid. They believe that this note that came out yesterday is from the very same people that sent the very first one back on the 2nd of February, just after Nancy was taken. So it's like somebody's playing games. Because if they were serious, right? You pay this Bitcoin by the 5th, and if not, it goes up to 6 million on the 9th. And if it's not paid then, it's the or else, right? Which to me means you're never going to find her. But now all of a sudden, 9 days later, you're trying to claim that you want the 6 million Bitcoin, or not Bitcoin, another cryptocurrency, which is not Bitcoin. What? So in other words, your threats from the beginning, because they think this is the same person. So what happened to your threat that if it wasn't paid by February 9th, it was the or else, like you'll never find her again. She's going to be, whatever. But now you're trying to make us believe, okay, we're back to wanting the 6 million again. And if you don't, this is how we are going to do something to her. And this is exactly what we're going to do to her. Apparently it's graphic. Another thing, this went to TMZ, right? Just like the first one did. The first one went to 2 news outlets and TMZ. And now here's another one just going to TMZ. But you got the day before that, TMZ saying, you know what? We're not going to discuss or release information anymore when we get ransom letters or letters requesting money and all this stuff. We're not doing that no more. But hello, here we are. Here he is again, releasing another one sent to TMZ. To me, it's like, I don't believe the first one was real either. I don't think that person has any idea where Nancy is. Because if they did, they would have followed through on their pay by the latest February 9th, or else. The or else would have already happened, because now we're 9 days later. And what are they doing? They're trying it again. Hey, send us 6 million in this cryptocurrency, which is not Bitcoin now. Or they graphically describe, this is what we're going to do to her. Well, how can you do something to somebody that was already done to them if you already Because to me, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, in the first letters, to me, if you don't pay it by the latest February 9th, she's gone. That's it. And now you're trying to do this again and say, now, if you don't pay it, this is what we're going to do to her. Well, if this was organized crime, she would have been gone on February 9th if they didn't pay. Right? So I think this is somebody trying to profit off of Nancy being taken, knowing that Savannah's a millionaire. It didn't work the first time. So let's say we'll try it again. Like, they're looking like fools. And I'm sorry to say it, but I'm going to say it. Come on. Law enforcement, TMZ, are you guys not seeing the full picture here? Okay, so we're going to go. I'm going to show you this. This is him. Now, this is from Aaron Burnett over on Twitter, CNN. I'm going to share this with you. Oh, let me get my earpods in here. Okay. Okay, so we're going to listen to this. MBW says, good morning. I agree, Willow. Having Nancy all the time is a liability. Exactly. I just don't believe these notes and this thing with TMZ is shady. I think the whole Ransom thing is shady. I think it's all a big hoax right from day one. And I'm not saying the news is doing this hoax or even TMZ, but I believe that whoever is putting out these demands, it's a hoax. I don't think they have anything to do with Nancy Guthrie or knowing where she is or having her or anything else they claim. Because like I said, if that was the case, she would have been gone on the 9th when that final, if you don't or else, she would have been gone then. But now 9 days later, we're going to try that again. Here's another chance for you. We want the 6 million in crypto, and we're going to graphically describe what we're going to do to her if you don't pay. It's like, are you kidding me? Okay, let's take a listen.
Really sophisticated.
You guys let me just get this. Okay, the volume is up. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear it, please. I think I shared the audio.
Note, Brianna, it is, honestly, I had to get somebody to help translate it for me. It involves a demand for crypto, not Bitcoin, a different type of crypto. Authorities have asked us not to be more specific about that, but
they've asked us not to even release this anymore about you getting any more notes. And they ask you not to release certain information about, but here he goes, he's going to anyway. And this pisses me off.
Very specific demands. The amount they're asking for in this different type of currency is roughly the same as the amount in the first ransom note, 6 million, the equivalent of $6 million. And they graphically describe the consequences if they're not paid.
When you say sophisticated, do you mean because of the type of crypto, or is it something else?
No, it's not just, no, it's the manner in which they're asking for the money and how it works in terms.
Okay, so this is another thing that I find interesting because he's given some hints here, okay? Basically, to keep TMZ involved, it's the payments and everything. This is what I'm getting from him and what he's saying, and I want you guys to listen to this and see if you're getting the same thing. The exchange of the monies and everything is going to somehow have to go through the media or TMZ.
Of getting, I've talked to the FBI today, and I'm not allowed to be specific about this. I'm not allowed to be. I mean, we're cooperating.
But I'm going to be.
But the way it works is that the money will automatically go into this account if certain things happen. And it actually involves the media too, in terms of what the media puts out. But it's a very sophisticated way of doing it,
Process.
where one thing triggers another. It's beyond my level
I've
of
heard about it,
knowledge,
Angela.
but I had some people in the office help me on
The
that.
sophistication is in the process, it sounds like, that is spelled out in there. And then, so this language, this tone of this note, is it similar or is it different from previous notes that you've received?
It is a little more graphic and chilling than the previous one. The previous one was also pretty chilling, but the way.
Okay, so that was the one on February 9th that you got paid 4 million by February 4th or 6 million by February 9th or else, and they described something. So now he's saying it's even more graphic. It's like they're sitting back going, shit, that didn't work. They didn't pay us. And well, let's get even more graphic and see if we can get some money out of these people. I feel it's a huge hoax.
This is described.
Hello,
as
Missy.
Is there anything
Good
in
to
this
see
new
you.
note that demonstrates the person who sent it is following developments in this case?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's very clear that whoever's sending all of these notes to us, both the ransom notes and the people asking for the reward, they hear what's going on. They read what's going on. I think that's pretty clear. And this person specifically addresses media coverage.
Is there anything in the note that provides proof of life or demonstrates inside knowledge?
By inference, they do. They don't.
See, here he goes again. FBI has asked me not to share anything in the note, not to get into details, and blah, 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 blah. And here he goes. And yes, I said that earlier, that he had just said the day before on the 17th, we're not going to share any more notes. If we get any more notes, we're not going to be sharing that anymore. And the very next day, they get a new note. And guess what he does? He jumps on and he hypes everybody up. Look at, we got another note. So it's like, what the hell is going on here? The sheriff tells me, please don't share anything. Don't share any of the details of it. But here he is sharing the details, right?
Say it directly, but by inference they do, in terms of consequences.
And you reported today, you said, quote, based on what we know, this is not a hollow promise. I mean, what makes you say that? Are you saying that you believe this to be genuine?
Oh, no, we don't know that this is real or not. We have forwarded it on to the FBI. I will tell you this. You know, I spoke to somebody in the FBI today.
Frank says TMZ is faking the notes. You know what? A lot of people are saying that, Frank. And it's like, I really think about it. And it's like, if they are, some shit's going to go down. Like, are they doing this for clicks and views? Are they? Because he says that he passes these on to the FBI, right? So if he is doing that, Frank, and I've thought about it, so I'm glad you said it. It really gets me thinking. It really does. Like, why TMZ? Why TMZ? Because this guy can't keep his mouth shut, right? And getting another ransom note, which is almost identical to the first, except for it's crypto now, and they give graphic details of what they're going to do. They already threatened to do away with her back on the 9th. If these people were serious and they had her, somebody earlier in the chat said they wouldn't keep her. She's a liability. They would get rid of her. But 9 days later, you're saying now, I want the 6 million Bitcoin, and this is graphically what we're going to do to her if you don't give it to us? Right? It's ridiculous. And why TMZ?
And they are more than happy for me to say this, which is that if these are hoaxes to get money from the Guthries, this is a federal crime. They will be prosecuted, and they will, as it was put to me, they will be spending a long, long time in a federal prison. So they are not playing games with this.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying
morning,
that.
Patricia.
You've been highlighting that if people are exploiting the Guthries, that is something.
Okay, I'm gonna be nice about this. I don't want to talk about the Epson files regarding this case, okay? Because I put out verified stuff that's coming out, and there's been no connection from law enforcement or whatever saying that that is involved. And it gets, and Frank, I don't mean to be mean or anything, but the thing is, bringing up the Epson stuff brings a lot of trolls in here and a lot of these crazy theories and people with the tinfoil hats, and I don't need it here. So I'm just going to ask, please let's not talk about Epstein or whatever his name is. And nothing against you. It's like, I just don't want it here. Okay. Thank you. Good morning, Nana.
Something that is not going to be tolerated. They're in the middle of hell.
Are you talking about me, Frank? Why am I covering for Epstein? Are you talking about me? Okay, bye-bye, Frank. I take offense to that totally, because I'm an SA survivor. I was SA'd since I was a child growing up in the system, so piss off. And it's people like that that get me going. So, and this is why I'm saying I don't want those files and everything brought up in my chat. So, Frank, go F yourself. You have no clue what you're talking about. Let's ignore it now, you guys.
With what they're going through right now, and that is, they do not deserve that. What's the FBI telling you about this note?
Well, they're looking into it. They're looking into this. They're definitely looking into the first one. They have spent a lot of time on that first note. And, you know, look, what I'm told, the way it was put to me today was they're shaking the trees.
Okay, so that is that one. Shaking the trees, he says. All right, so let's go on and see what Brian Enton has been saying. Patricia says, thanks for saying that, Willa. I don't believe that has anything to do with the case. I think it's Annie and her husband. Okay. Yes, sassy girl. There you go. From sassy girl. Positive energy only. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to have positive energy, but what I do want here is stuff that's been verified. And these are all just conspiracy theorists that are putting things out there, trying to link it to get more light on whatever. I just don't want no part of it here. That's okay, Nana. I know you'd get them, Nana. Rose says, shaken tree means buying and busting. Undercover cop goes in, buys some substance, and busts the dealer. Harvey's a little off. He's in a hot mess anyways with the Epstein. Yeah, I don't want to even talk about the Epstein stuff. What's verified is the neighbors actually went on an interview and said they were leaving and they are being cautious because they're scared. Yeah, another thing that I found out, you guys, and I forget where I found it out, so I'm going to say it's verified, but you're going to have to trust me or not. It's up to you. The neighbors that were packing up their vehicle that live next door to Nancy, they were going to that gem show. And that's why those boxes were all basically like the same size and stuff like that. They were taking stuff to this gem show. That's what I've been told. Thank you, Rose. And there's Nana. Nana. Hello, Alicia. No, I don't know if they're jewelers or not, Carolette, but I know that they were going to this gem show. Dossie Do says people just trying to distract from the case. Yeah. Okay, so let's take a listen to Brian Anton and what he has to say.
The fact that they're starting the investigative genetic genealogy is a really big deal. I mean, because I worked a lot on covering
and
that.
the FBI is starting the genealogy sites and
Okay, so there you go. It's not the sheriff. It is the FBI. They'd have to get the snip from the DNA, so they can run it through these genealogy sites. So it's the FBI. Thank God.
starting to be the CODIS. We understand that the CODIS database is, for known existing criminals. There is no
That's right.
match with the glove. So genealogy sites like 23andMe, is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, 23andMe actually doesn't participate, but there are
Okay.
some other ones that do where, they basically, it takes a while. It's not going to happen in days, but they go through all the sites with the DNA they have, and then they can find like a third or fourth distant cousin or relative of a suspect and then kind of work their way in that way. What's interesting I learned though is a lot of it depends on who the suspect is. Like, I guess with Hispanic people in this area, it's much more difficult because they don't have as many relatives in these databases. So there's a lot of factors that could make it more difficult, but I think it's a really good sign that they're starting that process, because that's literally what cracked the Koberger case in Idaho. And it's a new technology, but it's pretty incredible.
See, and this is where I kind of differ, because to me, why are you sending the glove for IgG? You should be first, and this is just my opinion, and Rose, you can correct me. The first thing that if the DNA that's in the house, it's an unknown male DNA, that should have been tested first, and they did test it. It's nothing came up in CODIS. That is what should be sent for IgG first, because then anything else you find after that, you can run that DNA through CODIS, and if it matches anybody on that family tree that you got from the IgG, boom, right? Why are they doing the glove first through IgG? Because they're saying that they didn't get a match for the DNA that was at Nancy's house. So even if they get a family tree or whatever for the glove, what's that mean? It's just a glove with this person's DNA out in the middle of nowhere. How are you going to match that now to the glove that was at Nancy's? Not the glove. Sorry, I misspoke. The DNA that was left at Nancy's. Because then you would have to get that person's DNA sample. Okay, so they got the DNA sample, they got the snippet that they send to IgG, they break down the family tree to get like a pool of people that it could be. But you need those people's DNA to compare to the DNA that was left at Nancy's. Why wouldn't you start at the house? That DNA was not, whatever that DNA is, because we don't know what the DNA is that was left. Is it blood? Is it skin cells? Is it a hair? Touch DNA? What is it? Send that, because it's not in CODIS. Send that to the IgG and get it broken down that this is the pool of people you should be looking for, right? And then do other evidence that, well, you claim is evidence, other things that you find, then you have something to compare it to. I think the DNA at the house should have been run through IgG first, and that's just my opinion. Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, why are you focusing so much on this glove first? It could have flown out of the back of a tow truck, because these are the type of gloves that mechanics, bricklayers, tow truck drivers, because they're thicker, they don't rip as easy, right? And people in those kind of fields of work need a thicker glove. It could have flown out of the back of a tow truck or the back of a mechanic's truck, or the DNA that was left at the house that they're saying is an unknown sample of male DNA. That should be done first, in my opinion. Let's continue.
You mentioned Hispanics. It's harder. There's not so much data there, but is there? And of course, we certainly remember a time where identity politics can get you in a lot of trouble and a lot of hot water. But is there quiet talk somewhere of any idea coming from either the sheriff's department or the FBI about the the ethnicity of the kidnapper? Are people, can you see enough between the mask and say this looks to us like it's someone of that's Hispanic, or someone who's white, or someone who's in between? I mean,
I don't think so. I haven't heard anyone be able to say that they had a feeling one way or the other. The only reason I brought Hispanic up is just because that was one of the experts I was speaking to specifically said that makes it more difficult. But also, I mean, just the part of the country, and obviously we're near Mexico. There's a lot
right.
of Hispanic
But not
people
black.
around.
I mean,
So
I'm looking at the pictures. Not a black person.
that's right.
Underneath those holes, that's for sure.
Okay. I think he was trying to be very careful with his wording there. Rose says, let's hope IgG can get that sample before they destroy it. Remember, every DNA that is being tested, you have to be careful because it cannot keep retesting it, expecting results. Right. And that's why I said they have to me, that DNA, whatever kind of DNA that was left at Nancy's house, that should have been their focus to get that to run through CODIS. If it did no match in CODIS, run that sample through IgG to get a history of that. At least you've got that, right? And then any other evidence that starts coming in, if there's no hit in CODIS, then run that through IgG to see if that matches what the known sample at the house. And to be honest, you guys, the sample that's at Nancy's house could very well have nothing to do with her going missing. I think I said this the other day in our chat, that this could be somebody that she had over that her family doesn't know about, right? Like maybe a husband and wife from the church. It could be the pastor, somebody that she had coming over that she was, discussing maybe problems she was having or options for something. Somebody that would give her an unbiased opinion on something. Maybe it was just a friend that came over, an older gentleman that came over to have tea. We don't know, right? So until you get down to whose DNA that is, there's a big question mark, because it seems to me that there is only one unknown sample at Nancy's house. Could I be wrong? Could they have more that they're not telling us about? Absolutely. But they've missed a lot too. They've missed a whole hell of a lot. Okay, so I want to go over here back to CNN because she's talking with an IgG expert. This is the lady, Barbara Ray Venter. She unmasked the Golden State Killer using the IgG. To get contaminated so bad. Well, look at the blue shirt. I brought that up long before anybody else did. So obviously somebody in mainstream is watching everybody's videos that are being put out, because I mentioned, I didn't hear anybody else mention that blue shirt until our live, 4 or 5 days ago. And it's like, wait a minute, what's that blue shirt? And we zoomed in on it, remember? And I said, that looks like a polyester shirt that a woman would wear, like a muscle shirt, like not spaghetti straps, but a thicker strap across the top. I says, I wonder if that's Nancy's. And sure enough, it was one of Nancy's articles of clothing that she had worn that the canines were using to get her scent. And it was just left there. And then a couple days later, all of a sudden, everybody in the media is talking about it. So, okay, so let's listen to this lady. She's an expert on the IgG. So let's listen to what she has to say.
Genetic genealogy takes a
sample of the crime scene DNA, in this case, presumably DNA either from the glove or from the home, and it's uploaded to one of two databases that allow upload of forensic samples, and those are GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to use some of the bigger databases like Ancestry and 23andMe.
But we know, like she says, the FBI is not allowed to use certain databases, but we know they do. They do it in a backdoor way. Submit their DNA snippet or whatever, saying that they're a certain person just to see what's going to come back. We know they do it. We know they do it.
My heritage. So what we do is we upload the DNA sample, and then what we're looking for is people who share DNA with the potential suspect. And so then what we do is we take a sample, their information, and we build family trees for each of those people who share DNA with the suspect. What we're looking for is common ancestors. So let's say we get a match with somebody who is a second cousin. Second cousins share a set of great-grandparents. And so if we've got a couple of people who are matching the second cousins, we can then identify that common set of great-grandparents. So then what do we know about the suspect? We know the suspect must also be a descendant of that common set of great-grandparents.
You know what, you guys, as good as this is for police forces to be able to use this IgG, as good as it is for cases like this is pretty damn scary. I was going to do this history stuff and whatever just for shits and giggles. All you old time folk that have been here with me since the beginning know I grew up basically in the system, right? So it's like, there's things that I question. It'd be interesting, but then I'm scared. It's like, am I going to be linked to something that I have no part of? I don't know. I just, it's scary at the same time.
So then what we do is we turn around and we build what we call
Oh, crap.
a reverse tree. Now we're looking for all of the descendants of that set of great-grandparents. And we take what we know about the suspect and try then to figure out amongst all those descendants then who our suspect must be. So in the case of the Golden State Killer, we had known that his first rape had been in about 1976. So we had figured that he was probably...
MBW says, I did ancestry DNA and there was a question. Would I allow LE to use my DNA for investigations? Yeah, there's some of them that you can opt out, but if you don't check that box, then they can still use it. And what I've heard, MBW, is that there are people that check those boxes, but the FBI didn't give a crap. They wanted it ran anyway. Yeah, I think about it often, Carolette, but I mean, I don't think I have anybody. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say that. You never know. I have some pretty shady family members that go back some. There's some people that know, some people that don't. But anyway, I have some pretty shady family members. And that's why I kind of, I don't know. I'm not going to talk much about it.
born in about 1936 or earlier. We knew that he had been active in Northern California. He probably lived in Northern California. I had been able to use his DNA to get his eye color, which suggested that he had blue eyes. And so that actually became one of the pieces of information that we used to identify him.
Yeah.
So
Oh, Carol, it's not my closet. It's just some of my family members are shady. And it goes back 50, 60 years. Huh.
The case of Nancy Guthrie, what we're looking at then, okay, this has occurred near to Tucson. We're probably looking for somebody who lives somewhere in that area. from the information that the FBI has been gathering from the Ring camera information, they've probably managed to come up with an approximate age for that person. So again, we would then use that information once we get.
See, there's that, whoops, there's that other photo that I was saying. To me, it looks like he was coming from this way, when initially he came in this way when he had the backpack on. And I think he came back in this way because he got her in the car, and I believe he put her in the trunk, and he went to leave and he said, oh shit, the doorbell. I got to go back and get that doorbell. That's what I think. And he, don't forget, it's already covered up, right? And it's kind of hard to see here if there's any of those blood drops because it's so grainy right here. They don't show the full video of him coming back up so we could see, right? So is this before? Is this after? I don't know. And another thing that really baffles me about this coming to the front door, you guys, which I haven't heard mentioned, is why would they go to the front door that has a big metal grate on it that's locked? Steel grate, whatever. Why wouldn't they go somewhere else and get in? Unless they did get in somewhere else and they came out that door. And it looks like they did come out that door because there was blood here, right? Carol says we all have closets. Yeah, I was never involved in anything illegal. I worked in the legal field and criminal law for 30 something years. So it wasn't me. It was just family, like, that I didn't even grow up with, really, because I grew up in the system. But yeah, things I found out. Anyway.
Get the information for who shares DNA with the crime scene person.
And Barbara, you're able to take these things and narrow it down.
See, and right there, that was a pretty, where's that? Right there. You can see there's nothing here yet. There's none of the weeds or nothing here yet. This is pretty clear. And when he came in, I wish they would have shown the beginning. He came in this way. Right about here, he started bandaging his head down and he come up this way. When he comes back with no backpack, he comes from this direction because you can see him coming up like right about here. And then when he comes up this time, you see him coming up right about here. So I think the car was over here.
Crime scene person.
And Barbara, you're able to take these things and narrow it down. And you did that by finding, I think, someone in the database who shared a great-great-grandfather with the Golden State Killer. When you're talking about building that kind of genealogy, because that's what takes so much.
See, right there. It looks like he's, like in the video, that it shows a little bit more than this. It looks like he's coming from this way. You see, he's walking in like this direction. The other one, he was walking this way. There is another video I want to show you guys because it looks to me like his backpack is open. We'll get to it.
Time here. How long does that take?
It can take a long time. So I've solved cases in less than 8 hours. Where
hear that? With IGG, she solves some cases within 8 hours. So this can take anywhere, you guys, this IgG testing that they're doing could take anywhere from 8 hours to weeks, months, right? Depending on what she finds in the databases.
I had close matches where people shared a lot of DNA with the suspect. Other cases, you're still working on them 2 years later. So I think one of the...
Oh, 2 years later. I hope it's not. I hope they can find a match. But the thing is, you guys, even if they find out who it is that owns that glove, how are they going to compare him to the DNA at Nancy's? Right? Whatever they find from that glove, they've got nothing from Nancy's to compare that to. I don't know.
Things that's important here for the audience to know is that this could take a while. Yeah. And so I know everybody's very anxious to get an answer to who this person is. But it really could take a while because depending also on the bioancestry of the suspect, if the person is...
Yeah, on the second one, he doesn't have the pew-pew and he doesn't have the backpack.
It's not white. That could really be a problem because the databases are about 80% white. So if you have somebody who is a non-white, if they're Hispanic or they're black or some other ethnicity, could be very, very difficult.
Rose says that theory that came out that the pew pew is normal to carry in Arizona because of the rattlesnakes. Well, we see, if you watch JLR's live stream, he's live from morning till night. Dolly was out there. There's a bunch of news reporters and everything out there. I haven't seen one person out there carrying a pew pew. You got a lot of the neighbors going by, jogging, stopping. I don't see anybody with a pew pew.
Difficult to solve a case.
The
It will be
DNA
possible, but it can take time.
It can take time. The DNA found at the house or on the glove, even if there is very little of it, would that be enough?
Yeah, even since the Golden State Killer, the techniques have become very sophisticated, and so it's possible to actually work with very, very tiny amounts of DNA. So that actually should not be a problem.
And this is what I mean, you guys. Like, he had just put the, where is it? See, he put the weeds over the camera so you can't see anymore. So when he did come back, did the weeds fall off the camera? He thought the camera was still covered, but he needed to go back and get the camera, but these weeds had fallen off because we do see him, right?
It's more just a case of being able to.
This isn't a
build out the
professional.
trees, and there be the right people in the databases that we can actually see shared DNA with.
Okay, so that's that. Now, the next thing I want to share. I'm going to do this one, because then I can go back to mine afterwards. Oh yeah, this this one's good, about the sheriff. And it never really, well, it kind of hit me in the beginning because I only seen one real interview where this was going on. So as a sheriff or a cop or FBI agent, whatever, the one thing that they tell you to keep out of any investigation is what? Go ahead in the chat. What is the number one thing they say to, well, not the number one, but one of the top three things that if you were investigating a crime, what do you got to keep out of it? Anybody in the chat? Rose should get this right off the bat. Oh, I'm watching in chat to see what you guys put. Carol, bingo. First one, personal feelings, okay? Personal feelings, emotions, assumptions, yes. Rose says assumptions. But the personal feelings and theories, okay? Exactly. Is one of the top ones that you are to keep out of any investigation, because that's why a lot of the times, like if you are close to somebody in a case, whether it be a missing person, a red drum case, they're hunting somebody down. If you have an emotional involvement with that person or with somebody in the case, they take you off and they say, you got to sit on the sidelines because we can't have emotions involved in this, right? Because when you get emotions involved, you don't think the same way you would if you're totally on the outside of it, right? I don't know nobody involved. It's not a family. It's not friends. It's not this. It's not that. I'm not emotionally involved. I can think clearly and make rational decisions, right? So yes, personal opinions and emotion and stuff like that, you got, and assumptions, yes, you got to keep out of any investigation. If you, number one, if you're emotionally attached, or it's a family member or a friend or somebody you know really well, no, you sit on the sidelines because you're too emotionally attached to the issue. So let's look at this. And when I read this morning, it's like, damn. Okay, so let me share this with you. So this hustle biatch, okay, over on Twitter. This is where it gets strange. He doesn't know. He's talking about the sheriff, okay? He doesn't know Nancy Guthrie, does he? Like I'm saying, does he? So why does the sheriff look personally shattered? Okay, and I want you guys to watch this and tell me what you think. Watch him closely. During the kidnapping investigation of Savannah Guthrie's mother, in the Pima County Sheriff has been visibly emotional in multiple press conferences and interviews. Not the family, not the spokesman, the sheriff. Okay? So even the family and spokespeople for the family haven't shown the emotion that the sheriff has. And it hasn't happened once. It's happened repeatedly. For someone who didn't personally know the missing person, the intensity has stood out to viewers. Some see compassion, some see the weight of responsibility, some don't know what to make of it. So I'm going to ask you guys, once you see this, because this is taken from multiple interviews or press conferences or whatever, okay? High profile cases affect people differently, but many are asking why he appears to be so personally affected. What does his emotion tell you? So Rose says, when I used to do raids, we would be drilled not to care about how it would affect the children in the house as Red went on. Yeah. Okay, so let's go. Let's watch this. I'm going to crank up the volume. Here we go.
What gives you hope that Nancy is still out there?
Wow. You have to have hope. You have to have hope. You can't, come on, this is somebody's mom. We're going to find her.
Do you believe you are still looking for Nancy Guthrie alive at this point, that she could be held somewhere? And if so, do you believe that is local in the Tucson area or that she's been taken?
Do you see? I just noticed that now. Did you see when she says, do you think that she could still be alive? He turned his head. Watch.
Looking for Nancy Guthrie alive at this point, that she could be held somewhere? And if so, do you believe that is local in the Tucson area or that she's been taken somewhere much further at this point?
We're just not going to give up hope. We hope she's out there somewhere.
So you still believe this is an active rescue mission at this point?
If you guys remember when I came in just after K-Mitch, one of our top mods here passed away. And it's like I started choking up because I couldn't talk about her knowing that she wasn't with us anymore. That's what I'm getting from this.
We hope so.
And I remember back on that, and I'm trying to compare my reaction when I tried to tell you guys that you're not going to see K-Mitch in here anymore because she's gone, right? And I started choking up because I knew what happened. I knew she was gone. I knew we wouldn't see her anymore. I knew, and that's the same feeling I'm getting from him. The stumbling, the turning his head like I don't want to even see it again. It's like he's turning his head, hoping that if he turns his head away from the situation, I don't know, you guys.
84-year-old woman disappeared on us. That's a challenge for us, and it's something we just want her back.
Yeah, we all do.
Remember Barry Morphew? We just want her back. We just want her back. I'm not saying that the sheriff has anything to do with what happened to Nancy. Do I think he knows more than what he's saying? I do. By this, it's sounding alarm bells. It's putting up red flags for me. Now, this is something I'm going to dig deeper into.
We all do, Sheriff. I know you've been in contact with Savannah, who we know is in Tucson. What is your message to her and the Guthrie family and all the viewers who care so much about Savannah?
We're not going to give up. We'll get this. I'm blessed. I have a team that is, look, they'll solve this. I know they will.
Sheriff, we thank you for your time. I know you're busy, and I'm going to be praying that you find Nancy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I mean, you guys? You see what I mean? To me, that is somebody who's just lost a loved one or just found out where their loved one is, or somebody that's very close to them that they know isn't coming back. I don't know. Am I off base? I think it's a little bit more than that, Rose. Dr. Dew says, I think the sheriff knows a lot more than he's letting on. Right? Yes. Lisa O'Keefe says, here come the tears. I have no compassion for the sheriff. He is acting. I think that's, Lisa, I've got to disagree with you there. It's not often I disagree with Lisa. I don't think he's acting. He knows something. I feel he knows something. Either he has found out it's somebody he knows that did this, or somebody he knows, child or relative that did this. I don't know. There's something there. No, this is not coming from somebody who has no emotional attachment to this lady. Yeah. I got such weird vibes. Right? It says something's off. Something is definitely off. Like when you look at when children go missing, we can take Summer Wells for an example. When the sheriff and that come out and talk, you didn't see that kind of emotion, and that was a child, right? And I'm not saying Nancy shouldn't get overwhelming attention on this case, but I'm saying I want to compare. When you got the sheriff there and the sheriff here, and you see the difference, and you know that was a child that went missing, and you don't see this kind of emotion. And we see that in a lot of cases like this where there's children. You don't see this kind of emotion. This emotion that you see is somebody who holds this person dearly, who knows this person, who has had interactions or some kind of relationship with either Nancy, and I'm not saying a relationship that way, with Nancy or the person who's done this. That's just he knows more than what he's saying. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you guys, hang on, I think I shared it because I don't remember. Oh yeah, here it is here. Okay, this is what I want to go over with you guys and see what you guys think. Let me share this. Okay, so here's that video. This is as big as I can make it, you guys. Nancy says, I'm sure Nancy's opinion on voting for the sheriff or donating to that community affects the sheriff in the future because we no longer have Nancy to maybe favor for him or his position. That could very well be. Lisa says, you think? Okay, I respect your opinion. And I respect yours too, Lisa. Don't get me wrong. I always respect, like you contribute a lot to this channel. I do respect your opinion. We have to disagree on this one. I'm just not sure his actions match up, but again, totally respect what you're saying. And you too, Lisa, I respect what you said, and you could very possibly be right and I'm wrong. I'm just putting my opinion out. I miss the access we used to have to edit typos. Yeah. Okay, so what's that there? Oh, that's the house in the background. Yes, it's healthy to disagree. And I respect Lisa, and I think she knows by now how much I respect her. And I'm sure she disagrees with me sometimes, and that's okay. Okay, look at. See what I mean by he came from this way? Because he's really close to this side. Let me back that up just a little bit. See? See? Here's the edge of the sidewalk. He's coming from this way. And then in the second video, he's on this side. He's coming from this way. Right? You guys with me? See how he's coming from this way? Because here's where the sidewalk starts, right here. This is like dirt and ground, and his back foot is still on the ground over here. He's coming up from this way. And then when he comes back, he's coming from this way because his feet are on this side. Okay, let's continue. Okay, let's look at the backpack. And what I'm saying is that to me, it looks like the backpack is open. We got to look at a bunch of different angles, but let's see. And everybody's saying he's left-handed. He's not, you guys. Turn around and look at the door. Like, we're looking at him. If we look at it like this, it looks like it's his left hand on the left, right? But turn yourself around. That's his right hand. I doubt there were two dressed the same, right down to the same shoes and everything. I doubt that very much. And you can see the handle of the gun is on this side. This is his right side. You got to turn yourself around as if you're looking at the door. This is his right hand going up. Oh, yeah, he had to have known. Like, even with that little light coming up the sidewalk there, like at night at 2-something in the morning, you wouldn't have even known there was a house back there unless you knew. JLR showed in one of his late night videos that he did how dark it was there. He was 5 feet from a white car and you couldn't see it on camera. That just goes to show how dark it is out there. Okay, look at, see this? It looks like it's open. We're going to get more pictures of it. Like, I know there's 1, 2, or 3 zippers on this backpack. And it looks like there's one of these zippers that are open. And I think, number one, inside of here, what could he have had? He could have had other bags in there that he was planning, if he was planning a robbery, other bags inside of this one that he could put stuff in. Or is that a tarp or something in there that he could wrap her in to take her from the scene? See? Oh, I just missed it there. Dang it. I'm going to try and go frame by frame here. See how it looks open here? See? Look at. Like, there's 3 zippers, and this one looks open. Even this one, maybe. And it shows it better when he comes back. So you can kind of see here, too. It's open. See? It's open. See? Look at that. Like, there's where the straps are that go around his neck. Okay? So you'd expect a little opening there between the 2 straps, but not this. This isn't open. I think there's a better picture that shows it. See right there? It's open. See? Look at. This is the back of the backpack. Here's the straps that go up over the shoulder. Here's the front zipper, and it looks like it's kind of pushed forward a bit, and this looks open, this zipper. Because there's the space, this first one here, there's the space in between the straps going up around his shoulders, and here's that opening right there. So one of them is open. See? Right here on this side. See? You can see it here. It's open there. Because here's the straps here. This zipper is open. So it's almost like whatever he had shoved in there was too big to shove in this backpack. And to be able to shove something down like that in a backpack like this, to me that looks like either a whole bunch of clothes shoved in there or some kind of material. See, and you can see it again here. That zipper is open. And look at him looking towards that way. As if checking. He's got the weeds in his hand. He is looking that way. Because once he turns his head back around, you can see his eyes. See? There's his eyes now. He had been looking this way for something. Like, did he hear something over there or whatever? I believe his car was parked over here. Like in the behind them bushes in their driveway. There's these bushes and that there. I think that's where he hid the car. And I think he brought her out. And I think he put her in the trunk. And as he was leaving, I think he thought, oh shit, the camera. I got to go back and get the camera. And this is when he's putting, isn't there something? He's walking back up, and then this is when he's putting the stuff over the camera. Like, what an idiot. There's his face. And I don't know, like here, this looks like the glove is dipping in here. This area right here. Like that's where the tip of his finger would be. And it looks like it's kind of dipping in. So does he have gloves on underneath? I don't know. Because there's certain spots where it looks like he may have. But then there's other spots like this where you see dips and divots and the gloves bunching up. Where it kind of looks like he doesn't. But this is probably the best picture that they got right there. This one too. See what I mean by how the gloves are crinkling up here and here and here? And this, it looks like, you know, when a glove's too big, it kind of like bends up and whatever. Anyway, to me, it looks like they're a little too big. See what I mean by the divots here? I don't know if that'd be like that if he had another pair of gloves underneath. See how it's bunching up? And divots, almost like the glove is too big for the finger. See what I mean by it all bunching up here? And here where he bends? So it almost, see the divots. It almost looks like they're too big for his fingers there. See? See how it's bending here and making a big hump? It's doing it here too. So I'm not so sure. See? This is a big bump in the glove because it's like his finger's down here and this is empty space because it's made a big, like a speed bump here. And it's crinkling up here where his thumb would bend and where his thumb meets his hand where it would bend. Here too, it looks like a big divot here, like a big bump. See? It looks like the gloves are actually a little too big. There it is again. But yeah. And the rest of that is just him putting that on there. Did you see how he cast a shadow coming up and when he steps out? How he casts a shadow. Yeah. I see the shadow. 1 KY sugar. I do see the shadow. Nana says, I'd like to see all the time stamps on these shots. Yeah. That could very well be, Lisa. It kind of looks to me like, you know, when you put on, like, you know, those gloves that you can get for washing dishes. And if you get the ones that are way too big, it makes like a speed bump on the top of your fingers. There's just too much space between where your hand's touching the bottom part of the glove and the top of your finger. There's too much space there and it makes that little bump. That's what it looked like to me there. But yeah, we do get sweaty under the gloves. And if there's layers, there may be a size up. It could cause that dipping effect. Yes. I agree. You're both right. But yeah, I'm looking at the video, and yeah, I do see the shadow, but I'm not sure. One KY Sugar, why? Is there something that you wanted me to see? Like, I do see the shadow. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think, I don't think so. Yes, please, and thank you. I know there's not a lot chatting today because I did set it to subscribers only just to try and keep some of the trolls out. Okay, so what was the other one? You don't think she... No. Nope. I do not think that she is with us. Okay, so here is Brian Enton. And this was yesterday. Let's go through this and see what he has to say. Brian Enton is pretty good. But I noticed even Brian does withhold some information, and I think he does that so he doesn't get in trouble. Not that he doesn't want to, but I think he's been told. And I know the sheriff went off on him yesterday when he went for, and the sheriff giving all these different interviews, individual interviews with people is bullshit. Like, get up there and address the people that voted you in. Get up and give a press release. Stop interviewing only certain news outlets, right? And apparently he went off on Brian Enton and said he wasn't too happy because Brian had interviewed somebody else from the department that didn't speak so highly of the sheriff. And he said to Brian, you got 10 minutes. And I'm sure he told Brian, you're not asking that. You're not asking that. Let me see the questions you want to ask. And I'm sure that he limited the questions that Brian could ask. And a lot of people are going nuts. A lot of other reporters, news reporters, are going nuts at the way that the sheriff treated Brian Enton. But anyway, this is Brian Enton. Let's listen to what he has to say. Let me get the volume up here for you guys.
Also, the FBI talking to officials in Mexico. I'm going to get into all of that in this episode. I also wanted to show you guys all these flowers out front, outside Nancy's house. There's been a ton more showing up, mostly, gosh, there's so many, mostly yellow, you can see here.
And just for those of you who don't know, yellow is a sign of hope.
Sad to see a lot more of the neighbors have been coming out. So I'm going to get into all the latest developments that happened today in this episode of Brian Enton Invest.
Wait a minute. Diane. Yes, Diane, you are correct. I did see that. I think it was, I forget where I seen it too. So Diane did say, I forget where I saw it. Sorry. And I'm right there with you. I forget where I seen that, but I did see the sheriff speaking with somebody, and it had said that, he had just lost his brother, I guess, the next day after Nancy went missing. Carolette, thank you. Thank you so much for the 10 US dollar super sticker. Character holding their hands together saying thanks. Yes. Thank you, Carolette. So yes, it is true that the sheriff had said that he had lost his brother the day after Nancy went missing. As far as I know, Terry, there was no outside lighting that she had on. Yes, valuable time. AR Jaman Mahal said this has gone completely off the rails because valuable time was lost. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Carolette. Carolette. Thank you so much, Carolette. She says, because of all I do. Thank you. I appreciate that very, very much. Okay, let's take a listen to Brian.
All right, hey guys, so I'm here outside Nancy Guthrie's house. I wanted to give you guys the latest developments. First of all, I was able to confirm that they are using polygraphs when it comes to clearing people in the Nancy Guthrie investigation.
And they are using polygraphs because there was a bunch of reporters at the police station yesterday. Now, polygraphs are being done. We don't know on who.
It's been going on for a while. I'd actually heard about it for a while, but I was able to finally report it today just based on the sources that I was talking to. And this is pretty common in other cases that I've covered. You know, polygraphs, essentially lie detector tests, are not admissible in court, but law enforcement, the FBI, will use them behind the scenes during the investigation just to clear people. And so that is happening in this case, and I'm told they have.
And I wonder, you guys, because the sheriff's taking heat, right? On Monday, he said nobody's cleared, not even the family. And then Tuesday, he comes out and says family's cleared. All of them are cleared. No, all of them are cleared. And one of the reporters said, well, what happened between last night when you said nobody was cleared, not even the family, and this morning, so less than 24 hours, what has happened to give you that indication that family is not involved? None of the family, spouses, kids, cousins, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncle. What happened? What information did you get that cleared everybody? And he refused to answer it. So is this why now? Are these the ones that he is bringing in for polygraphs? So now he can say they've been given a polygraph, they passed. I don't know. I'm just asking. I'm just putting it out there.
Use polygraphs to clear people in the Nancy Guthrie case. So that's new. The other thing is this Mexico element. The FBI is now confirming that they are having conversations and in touch with authorities in Mexico when it comes to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. Remember, Mexico is not far from Nancy's house where I am right now. It's like 50, 60 miles. It's like an hour to an hour and a half away. And it's very easy to get into Mexico. All the checkpoints really are when you're leaving Mexico for the most part. So it makes sense.
I heard that too, that somebody had said all you got to do is flash a passport and they let you through. They don't check your car, nothing, if you're going into Mexico. But coming out of Mexico into the US, it's hard to get in. Like, they do a lot more investigation and searches and maybe run your name. They want to see your passport, whatever. So I heard it's very easy, even through the border, to get into Mexico. So there's that. Somebody could have had her in the trunk of the car. Do I believe she's in Mexico though? No. I believe that she was disposed of right at the beginning.
Why they would be in touch with officials in Mexico. The sheriff has said that they have no evidence that Nancy was taken to Mexico, but at the same time, they don't seem to have any evidence that she wasn't taken to Mexico. And I'm going to get into that more with my guest in a second. I've actually got someone on today who is a former FBI agent in Tucson and worked with the Mexicans and can really tell us. He actually seems to think it's very possible that Nancy was taken south and maybe across the border, and he's going to explain why and how that would change the investigation. So that's coming up in a second.
I think, well, with him saying that, I haven't watched this whole interview, you guys, but with him saying that, it would have happened that night because they don't want to have to take care of her if they kept her alive, which I don't think they did. And they want to dispose of her as soon as possible if she's deceased. And I could see somebody having her in the trunk and going into Mexico, a more remote place where nobody's looking for her yet, to dispose of her there. But that would have had to been done that same night. You know what I mean? In my opinion, I could be wrong.
So I also wanted to reach you this is the latest official update that the sheriff's office just sent out a little while ago. So in terms of DNA, they say investigators are currently analyzing biological evidence found at Nancy Guthrie's residence. DNA profiles are currently under.
Thank you again, Carolet. And there is Karen in Texas. Karen, you were blocked yesterday by mistake by, I think, Kate. I think Kate's in here. And she did send me a message to unblock you because you were blocked by accident yesterday or the day before. So you're unblocked, obviously, because I can see you. So welcome back. And we are so sorry. Accidents happen. So we're sorry.
Lab analysis. The number of profiles and other related details remain part of the active investigation. No further information will be released at this time. We know that they are now doing the investigative genetic genealogy, which I've told you guys about, which is a big deal, but it takes time. That's what cracked the Brian Kohberger case. Tips, of course, they're still asking for tips. There was an anonymous donation today of $100,000. So the donation has gone up. This is in addition to the $100,000 reward from the FBI.
So now 202,500. Post modern. Welcome. It says, wasn't there a private plane that took off bound for Mexico the night she disappeared? I don't know about that, but what I'm going to say about that, I'm going to comment, is I don't think that this person has that available to them. And I'm going to say that just because this person here that you're seeing on screen is an amateur. So many things that he has done in this shows me amateur. Now, for somebody like this to own a plane and everything else and be able to get out, like, they would still have to be at some kind of airfield to take off in a plane. How do you get her on the plane? They have to land at an airfield. How do you get her off without being seen? So I don't think it's connected. I could be wrong, but I don't think that happened with her.
So, of course, if anyone knows anything, the reward is now up to $200,000. They're saying that the sheriff's office has received various requests for confirmation of various topics, including working with Mexican authorities, utilizing polygraph tests, specific video surveillance requests, financial analysis, and they're saying they're not confirming or releasing any details regarding those topics. So they're not going to comment on some of the stuff that I've confirmed, essentially, they're saying.
Okay, so because he brought up the financials and stuff, I'm going to put it out there because I looked into it. And what I have found, like a lot of people are saying that Tommaso, whatever his name is, was trying to get Nancy to give him a power of attorney because there's a power of attorney on record. I'm going to tell you what that is because I looked into it and seen the documents. That is Tommaso giving a power of attorney to Annie for all his financial affairs. And that was done just prior to Nancy going missing. And to me, it's like, why are you giving? I understand that there's some legal things with if he couldn't be there for the closing on the house and stuff like that. But to give her, and it's still in effect, to give her power of attorney over all his legal and financial affairs. Why would she need that? Unless you're planning on not being around. Now, a lot of people have said he's taken off to Italy. Every source that I have gone through, people have searched travel records and whatever. And as far as we know, he has not boarded any airline to go to Italy. So with that being said, which means he's still in the United States somewhere, we don't know where, and he's given a power of attorney to Annie over all of his legal and financial affairs. Odd? Karen from Texas says odd. Yeah, it has nothing to do with Nancy. And Rose just said there, he's not in Italy. Yeah. There have been documents that are out there that show that he didn't board any plane to go to Italy. And I'm sure he's not swimming there.
They're saying they do not share any information about SWAT activity. There was a call this afternoon that was not related to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. And a few of you have been messaging me about that on Instagram. Some of you guys listen to the scanners and are like, oh, I heard about a SWAT call. That SWAT call wasn't related to Nancy Guthrie. Trust me, if something is related to Nancy Guthrie and I find out about it, you guys know I'm going to be all over it. And I've got really good sources now. But the SWAT call today was not related to Nancy Guthrie, and there were no official briefings today. You guys remember the sheriff did a ton of interviews yesterday with a lot of media, including me. Everybody got 10 minutes, but today there's been no official briefings from the sheriff's office. I'm joined now by Jeff Cortese. He is a former...
Now, this is interesting to me, okay? Let's take a listen. I believe this was yesterday. And if anybody's asking about this, I think, was Ash Wednesday not yesterday? Let me look that up. When is Ash Wednesday 2026? Yes. So that is why he's got this on his forehead, because February 18th, which was yesterday, is Ash Wednesday. So he's gone to church and he has gotten from the priest or whatever on his forehead for Ash Wednesday.
Former FBI agent, retired special agent. He worked assignments in New Orleans and also in Tucson, which is obviously where I am. He was a SWAT operator, member of the Public Corruption and Southwest Border Violence Squad. So you're the perfect guy for us to talk to right now, because we confirmed that the FBI is now communicating with Mexican authorities regarding the Nancy Guthrie investigation.
In Tomaso's defense, she is his wife, and if he gets ill and cannot make decisions, she will need to, hence power of attorney. I get that. I get exactly what you're saying, but as far as anybody knows, he's healthy. There's nothing wrong with him physically. And generally, when you give a power of attorney to somebody, it's either because you are very ill, and there may come a time that you are not able to make these decisions for yourself, any legal decisions or financial. You get this a lot with older folks that have dementia and stuff like that. As they see that coming on, they will get, their family member to do a power of attorney so their affairs can still be dealt with, even though they are either incapacitated or something like that. So for a power of attorney, I could see it if it was just he was going to be out of town when the house closed, that she needed it then, and then that power of attorney would end. It would be specific to one thing. As for a closing on the house, she's given power of attorney for me for the closing and closing only of the house. That's what you would generally see if it was an instance like that. This is an open power of attorney that is still in effect, which tells me that there is a reason why he is not going to be able to take care of any legal or financial affairs. Why is that? We don't know. And yes, it is the timing, Karen. Thank you, Karen, for that. We haven't seen him since he tried to sneak away in a car covering his head. And it's the timing, yeah. Okay, let's continue.
And that's the most we were able to get from our FBI sources. What do you make of that? And what do you think that means?
He does not have any power of attorney over Nancy whatsoever. None, zilch, zero. The only POA involving Tomaso is with his wife that he gave to his wife.
Well, I'm not the least bit surprised, to be honest with you. The proximity of Tucson to Mexico certainly lends itself as an escape route, if you will. If I'm being candid, if it were me.
And Kate, yes, I did. I unblocked Karen in Texas.
And I was planning an abduction in Tucson, I would either stay in Tucson or I would go south. The further away from the border that you move, moving away from the border, you're going to face more scrutiny than going towards the border. In all likelihood, based on the timeline as we understand it, it would be, they'd be far into Mexico if that was their desired route before anyone even knew she was gone. It's a 60 mile, 65 mile hour. and a half, hour change, depending on traffic, et cetera. But easy route out. Relative.
Oh, shit. Sorry. Thank you, postmodern. What I was just saying is this is exactly what I just said 10, 15 minutes ago. That if she is in Mexico, she was gone that night in between the time that they say she left that house and the next morning when police showed up. She was already long gone into Mexico if that's where she is, because nobody would be looking for her yet. It would be easy to have her in the trunk of the car and go through the border at Mexico, like we've been told by experts with this going through the border of Mexico. You just flash your passport, they let you through. So, and at that point, nobody's even looking for her, right? So nobody be watching out for somebody going through the border at that time or whatever, nothing unusual, right? Because we didn't know that she was even missing yet. So, and that's what this cop just said now.
To the other options going north, south, east, or west, or north, east, or west, you're going to potentially expose yourself to more checkpoints, which is more scrutiny.
And is the Nogales crossing, isn't it? Is that the one that's closest?
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years, but I was doing a story down there and I went in and I remember I walked in, and going into Mexico was very easy. I remember when I came back out, there was CBP and there was a metal detector and, you had to show your ID and that kind of thing. But I think I remember just walking right in when you went into Mexico.
Yeah, getting into Mexico is going to be, for the most part, much easier than coming into the United States. There
There you
are
go.
at times random checkpoints that are set up for people who are departing the United States into Mexico, but by and large, it's going to be a much easier transition from the U.S. to Mexico than vice versa.
So would it be relatively easy for someone to get Nancy in? I mean, keeping in mind that she's 84, she's not going to be able to walk in. Like, she doesn't have that kind of mobility. If you had her in the car, how difficult would that be?
I wouldn't expect that to be very difficult to drive in there at all.
There you go.
Obviously, when you're dealing with somebody who's a little bit more advanced in age, there are other physical issues that captors would have to consider. But none of that should preclude them from being able to seamlessly get into Mexico, in my opinion.
And once across the border, I mean, I guess you could take her anywhere. I mean, I guess that's
Yeah,
what
I
you're
mean,
saying
at that
that's what
point,
you
it
would
depends
do.
on, yeah, it depends on what their intentions are. It depends on what contacts they have. It depends on if they're from Mexico, if they're working with people in Mexico, or if it's just if they're working in isolation. So, there are a lot of factors, but they have access to the country and the ability to move around. So I'm not the least bit surprised that we've made contact. I'm sure that we're working with our Legat office down there in Mexico, tapping our sources, anything we can do to identify possible route of travel.
What is our relationship like with Mexico when the FBI says that they're communicating with Mexico now? Like, what does that mean on the back end?
I'm not going to say that it's without challenges, because there are challenges, but we do have a very good working relationship with Mexico. Obviously, politics can play a factor in the when it gets to the media and whatnot. But when it comes to law enforcement, nothing is quite as easy as working with our own people within the United States. Obviously, you're dealing with international elements. You're dealing with law enforcement in Mexico. We do have a good working relationship with them. It's not going to be perfect, but we've done great things down there. I think the Brian Terry investigation is a good example of that. I was in Tucson at the time, followed only about a month later by the Gabby Giffords mass shooting with Jared Lochner. But our FBI investigators, it took some time, but they were able to track down the shooter into Mexico and bring him back here for justice. So nobody's out of reach, but it does involve a little bit more diplomacy, I think, amongst our interested parties.
And my mind might just be kind of scrambled right now because I've been working so much around the clock. But when you said the Brian Terry, remind me what that was again. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Forget the exact year. It was in December. I think it was 11 or 12, 11, 10. It was a CBP BORTAC officer who was working with a team in the desert south of Tucson. They were, as I understand it, they were looking for RIP crews that were stealing dope off of those who were importing it into the United States. But they were very violent. And the BORTAC unit that Brian Terry was part of
It's not good. I do have to stop a little bit in between you guys for fair use. But I don't know what he's
Encountered one of
getting
these
at
teams,
here.
a shootout ensued, and he was unfortunately, his life was unfortunately taken.
And you were the FBI was able to track down the shooter?
Well, you know, it was a massive effort immediately following. There were SWAT teams from all over the region that were involved in scouring the desert, looking for any indication where these individuals might have gone. And our investigators over the following months were able to, through various investigative resources, identify the shooter and have them returned to the United States.
So, I mean, you obviously know Tucson because you worked in the FBI here. When you
Yes.
said that if you were the abductor, you think that they would either go south to Mexico or stay in Tucson. Why do you say stay in Tucson?
It's going to be interesting.
Well, I think if you're transporting somebody, it's just personal opinion. I wouldn't want to deal with the potential of the different checkpoints that surround Tucson. There are a lot of checkpoints and in and around Tucson, and so if I'm not going south, I'm probably going to try my luck to stay put. That's obviously I'm not suggesting that is de facto what happened. I'm just opining on how I might consider the.
And that's, if you guys remember, that's what I've said. I think she's within the 2 mile radius, and I'm still being drawn to that place where water should be that isn't, and where she shouldn't be that is, and it's like near a park. And I'm getting like culverts, like those things that were, if you've seen JLR the other day, where he went underground there, under in some tunnel, to get the homeless people some dog food for the dog and stuff like that. It's something like that. That's what I've been getting.
Approach. But again, it also depends on the motivation of the individuals who are involved. And at this point, I think it's a little bit difficult to say for sure.
Yeah, and when you say that, the reason it piqued my interest is because the two SWAT operations that we've seen happen were pretty close to Tucson, potential people of interest, which doesn't seem like they're panned out at this point. But the one was in Rio Rico, which is like an hour away. And then the other one
on
was
its way down.
Yeah, the other one was just 2 miles from Nancy's house, which when I interviewed the sheriff yesterday, I asked him, does that indicate that you believe the suspect is still close? And he didn't really give a clear answer, but he didn't say no. So I don't know. The sense does seem to be that this person could be close by.
I mean, the possibility, I think, in terms of probabilities, those are my two high probability responses. At the end of the day, human behavior being what it is, you have to leave open the possibility.
And not only that, you guys, when you look at Nancy's house, how dark it was and everything out there, this person knew where they were going. They knew where they were going, and they had to have had some kind of plan as to where they were going to bring her, whatever. Like, we don't know. It could be a neighbor 3 doors down dug a hole in their backyard. You know what I mean? They don't got search warrants to go and search there. It could be somebody who's sitting in their front window watching all the activity. We don't know. But what I have gotten is she is close. And the person is going to be where they feel the most comfortable.
Possibility that people are going to do things that are outside of what would be normal behavior. Maybe they'd be willing to take a chance. Maybe they had a route through rougher terrain that allowed for avoiding checkpoints. I think they have to take the approach of anything is possible at this point. They got to look at the most probative evidence, and they have to follow that to its natural end.
So many people are saying this guy seems like an amateur based on the video, the way the gun, like it's like the wrong gun for the different holster. And, he tries to cover the camera with like grass at first before pulling it. But I was thinking on my drive this morning to Nancy's house, I mean, all the experts are saying that, but he's so far kind of outsmarted the cops from what we know. I mean, they're saying he's an amateur, but at the same time, he's kind of pulling it off at this point.
But the thing is, and Rose, you can tell me if I'm off here. The thing with this is the police know how hardened criminals work. There's been analysts and people that have studied them, and like cartel and mafia and this and that, and known people who do stuff like this or set it up. They know how they work. They know what to expect. You know what I mean? When you get an amateur like this that tries to pull something like this off, you don't know what the hell direction to go in. Like, it's like nothing is matching somebody who has a lot of experience in doing something like this. This is somebody who's made a lot of mistakes and doesn't know what the hell they're doing. And I think they're doing a lot of things on the fly, which is harder for investigators because they're not following the norm of what abductors and kidnappers usually do. You can correct me if you think I'm wrong in the chat, but that's what I'm getting from this. It's like, this is how they usually work. And this guy isn't doing any of that, right? So it's harder for them to try and figure out what the next move was because he's not following protocol of what normal kidnappers that expect $6 million in ransom are doing. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. And I don't know how much. I think Joe Citizen is just a little bit more savvy about criminal behavior than he or she used to be, if for no other reason than the number of documentaries and true crime shows. I mean, people are smarter than they used to be about how to evade detection because of some of just open source information that exists. I think those are reasonable questions about, the location of his holster. Is that how a professional would wear a gun or use a gun? Does that mean...
No, because if you hit that the wrong way, guess what you're losing, bud?
Okay, so maybe he's not a regular gun toter, but maybe he is a regular in terms of breaking into locations, right? So he just might be an amateur when it comes to using a weapon. I don't know the answers to those questions, but I do think that there's a lot of information out there. The true crime movies. And even to the extent where I think there's, the CSI effect, right? Where there's this belief that that law enforcement can pull evidence out of thin air in many cases. That could ramp up somebody's sensitivity even more and make them more prepared for criminal activity, even if they aren't super experienced. And Tucson's a unique area in and of itself because of the darkness of night. Boy, that is a real thing that a lot of people do.
Yeah.
A lot of people do not understand and appreciate how dark that place gets. They have a couple of observatories nearby that I think they minimize and limit the light pollution to facilitate viewing from those observatories. It is darker than dark at night. And so not surprised that you don't see have a lot of witnesses coming forward saying they saw vehicles driving away. If you're driving with your lights off, boy, you could go through neighborhoods and never be known.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling people who haven't been here. The neighborhood, Nancy's neighborhood, is just pitch black at night.
Yep.
If there's a full moon, you get the light from the moon. But
if you've watched JLR from, was not last night, the night before, he was out there when it was pitch black and he's walking towards these cars that are like 5 feet from him. And there's a white one, right? There's dark colored ones, but there's a white one there. He turns off his camera light and this car is like 5 feet in front of him and you can't see it. That's how dark it is out there, you guys. So it's like, I never really understood. It's like, come on, can't be that dark. Holy crap. It's like, what are you doing out there, bud? We seen those hog-like things, and we seen coyotes, and it's like, but apparently from what the locals have said, those pig-like animals, whatever they are, those animal that look like little pigs, that they don't bother you unless you bother them. And the same as the coyotes, that they're scared of the humans out there, that they tend to try and stay away from you. But still, it's still the fear factor, right? It's like at any time they could change their mind and say, hey, I want you. Tired of walking away from you guys. You're in my territory. So yeah, it's kind of scary. Javelinas, thank you, post-modern. I think somebody would have heard an ATV. They're pretty loud. I think it was a car.
I mean, everyone's like,
any cloud cover and you lost that.
Yeah, and everyone's asking about ring cameras. I'm like, they're not going to see anything. It's so dark. Even so driving dark, out here at night is, and there's all the dips. So like, it's hard. It's kind of crazy.
Yes.
You've been driving.
Very mountainous terrain, very hilly.
And that's why I say, you guys, that somebody knew exactly where they were going.
terrain, very rough terrain. Evidence collection is going to be difficult. Eyewitnesses are going to be hard to find, very difficult. I think, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, and the other thing is a couple of the local law enforcement people I've talked to here said they don't think this looks like a cartel sort of thing. Like it's too amateur. They would have pulled the
Yeah.
camera right away. Since you worked those kinds of cases, do you agree?
So from my experience, having worked down there, and I was a little bit ago, what I would say, generally speaking, the cartels operate very different north of the border than they do south of the border. They're willing to do things south of the border that they're not as willing to do north of the border. Reason being is they want to be able to conduct their business in the United States. They do not want the United States to get to raise their threat level against them. And so, you know, the killings that I saw, the violence that I saw very frequently, if it was coming direct from the cartels, was going to be targeted to people who owed money, people who are in the business. They want to, for the most part, stay away from drawing unnecessary attention beyond what they already do. So I would be surprised that they would, if they would have an interest. They're making plenty of money. You know, there's.
In other words, they're not going to go and kidnap an 84-year-old woman and try and get money out of Savannah. That's not how they work. You have to be in that circle somewhere. And most of the stuff that happens like this within cartels and stuff like that is people who owe them money or have ripped them off or have squealed, ratted somebody out.
This is a high profile figure. If it was discovered the cartels were involved, it's going to just raise the threat level against them and draw more attention than necessary. Never mind the fact that it did lack the professionalism that I would expect. They're very savvy. They're very patient. They're very good at what they do when they decide to do something.
Right. Yeah. Like what would the motivation for them be? I can't think of it for this, you know?
Right. High risk, very low reward from based on the information that we have at this point.
Because for the cartel and mafias and stuff like that, 6 million is pocket change to them. That this would not be worth drawing that attention to them for this, and then having to dispose of an 84-year-old woman or take care of an 84-year-old woman, and take the possibility of being caught sending these ransom things and everything. It's just no.
So, I mean, just because you know Tucson and you lived here and you worked for the FBI here, and you've obviously been following this story, what is your theory? I mean, everybody asks me always, ask me what my theory is, and I have got a couple, but is there something that comes to mind to you where you're like, I bet this could be an explanation here of what happened?
Thank you.
You know, I hesitate to posit a theory because at the end of the day, it's the evidence that's going to drive the investigation. And I think there are a lot of theories floating out there, and they can become distractions. What you have is you have a massive resource on the ground with the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office. And I don't doubt for a second that they have teams of people who are brainstorming, chasing down all the various leads and looking for the most probative evidence. And like I said before, you know, following it to its natural end. Any theory that I might pose is not something that they haven't already thought of and isn't something that they're not in the process of chasing down and could only, I think, just ultimately be a distraction that I don't want to.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Is there anything that stood out to you as particularly unusual?
Boy, the whole thing has elements of unusual.
Yeah.
You know, if you do this job long enough, you see all kinds of things. You engage with all kinds of people. You witness or investigate all types of crimes. I don't know that there's anything in and of itself outside of, you know, we're very limited. We have only the evidence that the government has allowed us to have. So to assume that we have everything would be, I think, naive of me, right? But if this was all the evidence, that would be shocking. That would be the shocking thing.
Well, I'm waiting to see, you guys, if they can get anything more from the other cameras. And I listened to somebody who went through what they have to do to actually try and get that stuff. And it's like mind blowing. And it's like, you're not even guaranteed to get anything. So for the amount of work that has to go into that, because she wasn't saving things to the cloud, the amount of work to go, excuse me, that you have to go through to try and get something like that, and then maybe not even get anything. Oh, wow. That would be, I'd be gutted.
And I just don't think that's the case.
Yeah, it seems like they have more, especially because of these SWAT raids that we've seen. That, and one at least we know was a federal search warrant, the recent one on Friday night. Um, can you explain a little? I mean, if it was a federal search warrant signed off by a judge, they must know something, right? They can't just go busting into someone's house, take the
Right.
phones,
No,
close the street
absolutely.
down. I mean, there's something we don't know here, right?
So this happened after, if I remember the timeline correctly, this happened after they posted the pictures. And those pictures, without question, were going to tickle the tip line, if you will. We knew, watching this, those of us who have been there, knew that their tip line was going to go through the roof. They were going to start getting tips. Everybody's going to say, not everybody, you're going to get a lot of people who are going to say they recognize that person. I know that person's eyes. I spoke to this person the other day. They didn't really give me a good answer as to what they were doing between these hours. I called my ex-boyfriend at that time and he wasn't home. You're going to run the gamut of tips. And they're going to have to chase all that stuff down. You're going to have varying degrees of information. Some people are going to speak very emphatically about things that maybe aren't 100% true. And so the FBI and Pima County Sheriff's Office just has to chase down the most viable leads, and based on that information, could get sufficient evidence to justify, a stop and a search, et cetera.
Sheila says, what are your thoughts on the guy they questioned near Mexico? I feel if the mask was put on his face, he definitely looks like him. I bet you there's a couple thousand people, if you put that mask over their face, it would look like them. That would be an interesting question to ask the next read. Specifically ask about that person.
So, I mean, I'm not surprised at that. I think that's a natural result of tickling the tip line, as I said.
But is it unusual for them to do a federal search warrant, have the SWAT teams out there, just to, that's not just a follow-up on a lead, is it?
No. No, that's an excellent point. So it's not just because somebody called in that they're going to start pulling over everybody that a complainant called in about. They must or might have had additional information that led them to believe this was a viable subject. So yeah.
And I believe the information that they had on him, and this is who they're talking about, is the guy in Rio Rico. And I think I think somebody called it in saying he looks like the guy. And then when they looked into that guy, they found out that he is in Tucson a lot. He's a delivery driver, blah, blah, blah. They found out all this information. And that's why I think that they got the search warrant on the house. And if you notice, they didn't get a warrant for his arrest or a warrant for his DNA. They got a warrant to search the house and vehicles, which is easier to get than an arrest warrant or a warrant for his DNA. And ultimately, he was cleared. And I do believe that he wants to sue now. And I mean, it is what it is.
It goes to our previous point that there's likely more information that exists out there that supported their ability to do those types of things and take that kind of law enforcement action.
We confirmed that they've been going to gun stores with 60 photos and 60 names, showing them.
60? I heard 40. See how things get ramped? It was initially reported that it was 40 photographs and 40 names.
The photos and the names. The 40 to 60. The number surprised me that it's that many. What
well, you know what? It just depends on how they're coming to those names and faces. What do we know? We know, at least from the public, what we know is we've got an individual who has an approximate height and weight. We've got clothing that is somewhat identifiable. The shoes, the pants, the jacket, the backpack, all of those things, items may be sold at multiple locations. They're going to basically be cross-referencing every component that they can to come up with potential names, right? Who may have bought this item and this item, and then from that they're going to go then reasonably to gun shops. And I think what it shows is really how on the ground the FBI and Pima County sheriffs, like, they are chasing these leads down and they're taking all the necessary steps to try to identify who these individuals might be.
There seemed to be a lot of surprise that there wasn't an arrest that resulted from this. And again, it was a big raid on Friday night. I mean, there was a lot of law enforcement. Is that typical? Did that surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's just the nature of how some of these things go. Not every quote unquote SWAT hit or search warrant results in arrests. There are often times you conduct a search warrant and you're doing that to collect more evidence, collect more information. Arrests may come later on down the road, but they didn't have sufficient evidence at that time necessarily to arrest anyone.
And it's an easy way, you guys. I'm going to put this out there. It's an easy way for them to get one of the hardest warrants to get is for your DNA. Why? It's because they are intruding on you personally, your insides, everything. It's more intrusive, right? So even if it's just a swab in your mouth, like, that is something that your rights are protected, that they can't just take this and then they could do anything with that. They could put that into CODIS. So if anything ever does happen, they've got you in there. No, wrong. It's very hard to get a warrant for somebody's DNA. But by doing it this way, getting DNA on the house, they could take something of his and his DNA is now on that. And then they can extract DNA from whatever they've taken from his house that they know is his, like his toothbrush, something in his room that was only his, that only he would interact, like his hairbrush or whatever. That's how they get DNA without having to get a warrant. It's crazy.
So the fact that people were subject to the search and then released by itself does not make that suspicious in any way.
Are there a lot of ways, and I know it's harder to get into the US, but are there a lot of ways to get into Mexico without being noticed?
Just as there are a lot of ways into the United States from Mexico, the opposite is true as well. The Tucson sector has a lot of desert, a lot of open desert, but it's extremely rough terrain. I would be less inclined to think that they would try a more difficult trek through the desert with somebody in an advanced age, particularly knowing how easy it would be to probably just drive straight in. That being said, there are ample opportunities to cross in without taking the main roads or walking through the POE.
I really appreciate Jeff for talking.
Okay, so that was that. So a lot of good insight there, you guys. And that was about it for what I have to show you guys. Let me just get rid of some of this. Let me go here. Just give me a second. Okay, so I'll share this with you we'll watch this for a few minutes, you guys, and then, hang on a sec. I forgot to share the audio. Okay, so this is JLR sitting outside of
Is there a possibility
Nancy.
that someone in LE felt slighted from the reality show Nanos has, and this could be revenge for that? Maybe someone was excluded from...
Okay, I'm going to just turn off the volume, but this is from JLR. He's sitting out front. It looks like he's just down from Nancy's, because Nancy's house is down here. You can see where the news has got their tents and everything set up. And it is raining, so I mean, how long are they going to do this? Like, how long are the news and everything going to have their crime reporters out there sitting in front of Nancy's house, right? And it looks like a lot of them are just sitting in their cars, just waiting for something to happen. And I mean, I guess that's about, at this point, that's all you can do. But like I said, he's out there, you guys, from first thing in the morning till dark. And he was walking when I was telling you about the white cars. I believe it was this one here, because there was an SUV behind it too, but it was a dark SUV. Anyway, he walked down here away from Nancy's home, because Nancy's home was back in here. He was walking down here and he crossed over the road, and he was like 5 feet from this white car. Maybe it was this one. 5 feet from this white car. And when he turned off his light, you couldn't see a damn thing. You couldn't even see the street light, the street signs, nothing. And he was like, he walked right up almost to this corner here and looked up, and you couldn't even see that street sign. Our gentleman thinks that next week the reporters will be thin out and without new activity. I don't know. I just don't know. JLR has said that he's staying out there until they find her. But I mean, this could go on, sadly, for months. I hope not. I hope that she is found. I hope that she is found soon. I hope that they catch whoever did this, and I hope they catch them soon. I mean, I think Savannah is devastated, as is other family members. And Nancy deserves better. And I'm probably going to end it with that quote. Nancy deserves better. So I think that she would be so thankful for all these people that are out there for her. I just hope she's found, and the person who's done this is held responsible, because this is getting to a point where if they don't get something soon, then they're not going to get nothing. I thought that guy just jumped out of that thing with a mask on. Anyway, so I'm going to end it here, you guys. We've been here for over 2 hours. I brought you what I wanted to bring you. I do have a doctor's appointment coming up this afternoon, so I'll be out for a bit for that. But if anything pops up, I do have my cell phone on me. So if anything pops up, keep an eye on my community tab, the community posts, because if it's just something mediocre that pops up, I put it there. And if anything big happens, well, I will get home as soon as I can and jump on live and bring it to you guys live. Okay, so with that being said, thank you, everybody, for being here and watching along with us. Thank you for your donations to the channel. It's very much appreciated. And make sure you hit that subscribe, hit the like, share this out, and make sure you hit that notification bell, have it set to all so you're aware when I go live, when I do updated reads, when I post, stuff like that, you'll get notified. So until the next time, you guys, I'm going to end it like I always do. Please pray for Nancy, pray for her family. Let's pray that this comes to an end soon and she is found and the people responsible are held accountable. Until the next time, please take care of yourselves. Please stay safe. Always be aware of your surroundings. I love you guys to the moon and back. Bye-bye for now.